Chest up, shoulders back. This is Revival Fitness, your home for gains and brains. And we have an interesting tale here. I was asked to react to this from Nathaniel Massiah. Never heard of this kid, but he's got a pretty sizable following. Looks to be a powerlifter, and I'm going to assume based on the following, he's a successful powerlifter. People ask me if I'm going to ever do it. Maybe I'll try one meet at some point. Deadlift, yeah, I think I could do pretty darn well. Squat, if I really push myself, I think I could get a good squat. I don't want to, though. Bench press, not very confident. But that ties in exactly to his video here called I Got Fat. And it has some applicable lessons that a lot of you need to listen to. And you're going to learn one way or the other. I'm here to try to help you learn sooner rather than later.
I got fat.
Now, looks like we're back over in the UK, bruv.
In order to explain this to you guys, what I need to do is go back, alright? Right to the beginning. So, my name's Nathaniel Massiah, and I've been making YouTube videos since 2017, and in 2019, I got my big break. The main things that I was known for was my strength.
I don't know exactly how much this is. Like I said, I'm sure he's very strong if he's a well-known powerlifter. Okay, let's just count the plates, including the big red ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know if those are all 45 pounds or 20 kilograms over there, but in any case, looks to be a lot of weight.
And my physique.
Yeah, so he looks pretty so-called aesthetic as well. And a lot of powerlifters, like I've told you guys before, once they do cut down, they have a lot more muscle than people realize because it's always covered by more body fat and oftentimes big shirts or even the singlet. And then there's going to be angles taken far away from the lift to get all the plates in, and side angles to replicate judging. It's just not comparable to all of the aesthetic kids that you see on Instagram. So in most cases, really, the powerlifter has more muscle mass than the really popular aesthetics bra, but only seeing content in isolation, and that's your only real reference point, you would have no idea.
But the thing is, I've always been a natural lifter.
I'm sure people will doubt this. You're entitled to that, I get it. We'll take his word for it that he is natural, just for example here. And keep in mind, too, I mean, I think we can say without any doubt, he's genetically gifted. I don't think it's far-fetched to give him the benefit of the doubt here.
When you're natural, generally speaking, you can't really focus on the two of these at the same time. So I had a formula that was pretty much down to a T. In the autumn and winter, I would bulk, focus on strength, hit new PRs, and make a bunch of content about that. And then in the summers, I would get shredded, and I would generally have some form of boys' holiday, and I would take a bunch of physique pictures and videos, and then have those banked up. So if we go back to 2019, when I was 16, I hit a 260 kilogram deadlift.
That comes out to 572 pounds. 16 years old, guys. But something I notice now, man, I guess it's social media that brings these guys to light so much. So many of these young lifters are so accomplished, and they're not even outside of college age yet, or as they would say, university age. It's just insane, man. The amount of bodybuilding progress, powerlifting progress, medals, records. Like, whenever I was this age, back in my day, 16-year-olds were either just fat, skinny, or maybe if they played a sport or hit the gym a bit, they were relatively muscular. It seems like nobody was doing this. Maybe a couple guys on the football or wrestling teams. And now you open up Instagram and you see guys like this every day.
And then the next year, you know, got shredded, and that's when I went on holiday with Oliver and we went to Marbella. This is my first time getting like properly shredded, right? And I feel like I have one of those physiques where you only really get to see like the full potential of my physique when I'm lean.
Well, that's pretty much anybody. Certain people carry body fat better than others in terms of genetic distribution, but nobody looks as good or as good as they potentially can whenever they are higher body fat. I mean, the leaner and leaner that you get, the bigger you look in photos and videos depending on how they're framed. And because of that, you look more impressive. Even a lot of guys that don't have much muscle mass, if they get lean enough, they can make it look like they're pretty big.
Because I don't have like crazy bubbly muscle insertions. So a lot of people when I'm bulked don't really think I look that great. But then when I cut, it's like, oh damn, like that's what you actually look like. So 2020, I get in the best shape of my life. And I actually managed to hold that decently throughout the rest of that year. And so even in towards the back end of the year, when I was focusing on strength, I didn't put on too much weight. And I still managed to stay fairly lean. And that's when at 17, I hit 300.
That is 660 pounds. At age 17, I swear to God, bro. So while his exact circumstance does not apply to you watching, or me, or really anybody else, the general principle does apply. Just hang tight.
Then the next year, continue to gain strength. And then this is the well-known Ibiza trip with Joe Fazer and Archer, these guys. And I got in even better shape for that trip. I was super lean, I gained size, and these were some of the best pictures that I'd ever taken.
All right, so at this point, the natural status is going to be in a lot of question, and I totally get it. Guys, I'm not one of these people that's going to say, we know he's natural. Well, no, we don't know that. Even so, taking gear does not totally alleviate the problem we're about to discuss. And especially if you have average genetics or below, totally natural, it just makes it that much harder.
And then towards the back end of that year, I hit a 320 kilogram deadlift when I was 18.
Okay, now I gotta do more math. 704 pounds. Holy shit, man. Okay, so in the span of, less than 2 years, he added 135 pounds to his max deadlift, which is 61 kilograms. And his deadlift was already in the elite territory. Yeah, the natty card's gonna be fighting for its life.
And then we hit university. So I go to university, lifestyle kind of goes out the window, general freshers activities. And I don't manage to hold my leanness as well as I did for the previous year, but I was still focusing on strength. And when I went to university is when I started competing in powerlifting.
So he wasn't even doing powerlifting officially yet. He was just hitting these maxes in the gym for the hell of it. I mean, I'm sure he had aspirations to do so, and if you're as strong as he is, people are going to tell you, rightfully so, you should do powerlifting. And he's still so young, so he's surely going to deadlift 800 plus at some point, right?
When I bulked, I got up to a bit over 90 kilos, and when I would cut, I would get down to between 83 and 85 kilos. This is around about the weight that I was at. So when I competed in powerlifting, I competed in a 93 kilo weight class, and I did well. I did a qualified comp, and I did British University Championships, and I came second. Now, however, although I was competing in powerlifting at this time, powerlifting wasn't my main focus in life. I had other things going on. I was a university student, an ambassador for some big brands, and I wasn't willing to commit myself fully to powerlifting.
He's already broken records unofficially across the spectrum of numerous categories. I haven't fully committed yet, though. Dude, the life of the genetically elite is just absurd, isn't it?
Again, I do what I've always done, and I go on a pretty big cut. And I don't actually know if I was in better shape than the previous year. I don't think so. But I still get really lean.
So you can see this picture when he's in the sauna, much leaner, and in general, he's holding a lot more water. And one of the biggest culprits in that regard is sodium. The more sodium that you're taking in, the more water that your body is going to hold. And this is one of the reasons that sodium is viewed as the pinnacle of electrolytes. But it's far from the only one, and if you take in too much sodium, especially in comparison to other vitamins and minerals, that can actually hurt rather than help your training performance. And that's why the sponsor of today's video, Magna, has an elite electrolyte supplement centered around magnesium. Why magnesium, you might ask? Despite the lack of attention that it gets, and I guess coincidentally it's estimated that almost 75% of people are deficient in it, magnesium is arguably the most important electrolyte of all. And this goes far beyond cramping. Magnesium helps regulate testosterone and other hormones, stabilizes blood pressure, enhances sleep, and supports ATP production within the cells. This means it is directly involved in hard muscle contractions. Most electrolytes are really just flavored salt shakers, but Magna combines 3 types of magnesium at over 200 milligrams total per serving. Malate for energy, glycinate for recovery, and L-threonate for focus. Combining these with the proper blend of sodium and potassium, as well as vitamins B6 and B12, and no sugar added, Magna is the perfect addition to any serious training routine. It is trusted across the spectrum of pro sports, with champions in MMA, cycling, skiing, surfing, and more swearing by it. And I think it's easy to see why. So if you would like to take your electrolytes to the next level, visit drinkmagna.com and use my code REVIVAL to get 15% off of your order. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description box.
Going into the back end of that year is when I decided to drop out of university.
If you have a big social media following, you don't need to go to college. I mean, I understand if you want to get a serious degree in a solid field like STEM, maybe law, something like that. I don't know what this guy was studying, but dude, the general college degree is useless just as a baseline, but especially if you've got a big internet following.
And this did 2 things. It gave me extra time, and I also lacked kind of purpose in a sense. So I would say my training around about this time felt a little bit lost. Like, I wasn't going into the gym. I didn't have a proper plan. I was just kind of training for strength, also physique. In the beginning of 2023 is when I met my friend Joey. He kind of told me what people in powerlifting thought of me and how like I wasn't like that much of like a serious lifter basically.
Yeah, not that much of a serious lifter. You've only deadlifted over 700 pounds. I'm sure he squats 500-600 pounds, probably benches 400-ish pounds.
And this really lit a fire under me. And that coupled with the fact that I didn't have too much going on around that time. Obviously, I was doing social media, doing all the other stuff I'm doing. But again, I'm used to balancing all of this with either school or university, and I don't have that. So literally the next day, I text the guy who's now been my coach for 3 years, Owen. This was the beginning of my start of taking powerlifting 100% seriously. So at this point, I told my coach that one of my main goals is to be one of the best lifters in the UK. I do a qualifier, I do junior nationals, and I come third. I get the call up to worlds. So I would say I was focused on powerlifting, but I wasn't 10 toes down 1000%. Because again, this year, I wasn't fully happy with how I looked. Again, when I would cut and I'd be like loving my physique, I was in the 80s, like between 87 and 83, and around this time I'm saying like 95. So I wasn't fully happy with my physique. I remember one particular day doing a shoot with Joey, doing a video with Joey, and he was gnarly leaner when he was 83, and I just didn't like how I looked. So I went on a cut this summer, even though I had the world's call up.
I know you and I cannot relate to the scenario of getting called up to worlds in powerlifting. That said, what he exactly described there is what so many young lifters go through. You are aiming to build muscle, build strength, get stronger holistically, but then you look in the mirror and you're a little bit flabby, or, oh, I'm too kind of skinny fat, or you don't like whatever it's going to be about your physique, and you're compelled to do a cut. And if you've got the muscle mass and the results this guy has, if he's not doing powerlifting, I'm sure he would just stay leaner as it is. But a lot of you don't have any muscle, you don't have any strength, you don't even have like your baseline foundation built, but you're still trying to cut all the time because you're scared, and you have ab anxiety, as I call it. You think that you need to be lean and or have visible abs, maybe even a six-pack, to function in society. And I don't say that as a joke, guys. I talk to dudes who live this. They have a hard time going about life if they're not very lean. Like, they can't look in the mirror, they get nervous about going outside, they can't talk to girls. But the way to truly change your physique in a way that you're going to be happy with is not by cutting and cutting, it's by building muscle. And if you keep cutting and cutting, you're not going to build the muscle.
And I got down to about 91, and I looked good. We went to IB for, I was probably like 92-ish.
Alright, so this right here is a physique that's more maintainable, if you want to call it that. Like, he's lean enough, right? There's some visible abs. Probably mid-teens body fat, roughly. And even if you want to look like the guy to the right or to the left of him, they look to be roughly similar body fat-wise. They all have muscle mass of varying degrees, but they clearly have it. You can see this guy's delts, his arms, his chest. This guy's got the big leg sticking out. He's got the biceps, right? A lot of you right now may be at similar body fats to these dudes, but guess what you lack? It's the muscle mass. So cutting farther and farther down, trying to look like they look, lacking what they have to look like that, it's an endless failure.
I still looked good, not like the crazy shape that I was, you know, when I would cut for summer in the past, but still in good shape and still had decent strength. I did see a bit of a strength hit, particularly to my bench. Squat was still okay, but bench wasn't as good as it could have been.
That's how it goes, man. I mean, even now, guys still asking me, bro, what is this stuff about the bench press going down on a cut? That doesn't possibly happen. You'll see, my boy. You'll see. And even going from, say, 20% body fat to 15%, because you are not going to lose muscle mass cutting from 20% to 15%. No matter how many people in the comment section say, you will always lose some muscle when you cut. No, you won't. You have to cut down very, very, very lean before that even becomes a possibility. If your protein stays where it is and you continue training, even in a modest capacity, you're not going to start eating away at your muscle mass. That idea is so ridiculous. It's the fact that guys have less muscle than they think, and more fat, and more water than they think. But that fat and water gives you increased leverages. So going from the 20% to 15% body fat example, you could lose a noticeable amount on your bench press simply cutting that much. Even dropping a couple percentage points body fat, you could see a reduction in the bench press. You could also gain a couple percentage points of body fat and see the bench press go up. It is that affected by your overall body mass and your leverages. And if you guys remember a while ago, that one kid commented this whole spiel at me, and at the end he finally admitted that he benched 130 pounds. But he was the expert proving me wrong.
And then my deadlift was still good. This is the thing, when I always used to cut, the main thing that I would use to show my strength was my deadlift. And this doesn't get majorly affected by going on a cut. If anything, your leverages actually get better.
Right. Of all of the power lifts, the deadlift is almost always least affected by getting leaner. Squat is going to be somewhere in the middle, depending on the person. It could take more of a hit than others. And this applies to similar lifts as well. I can say for myself, whenever I cut down to just below 10% body fat last year for my show, I was doing reps with the Romanian deadlift with over 405 pounds for like 5 to 6 reps whenever the cut just began. By the end of it, I was down to like 365 pounds for a handful of reps. Now compare that to my bench press. My max before I started the cut was 315 pounds, and I didn't fully test my 1 rep max on the bench press at the end of the cut, or really during it. I did try some reps on the bench press deep into the cut. I was struggling to hit 225 for a handful of reps at the end. So if we want to just say 250 1 rep max, just to be safe, 250 divided by 315, that's just under 80%. So that's a 10% disparity in the loss on the Romanian deadlift versus the bench press.
Worlds comes up, I put the weight pretty much back on. I got back up to like 95 and a bit kilos, do world championships, and even though I came into that competition ranked
632 pound squat, so I'm sure he's closing in on 700 now too.
8th, I ended up coming 3rd.
Bench 385, yeah, so he'll be doing 400, probably already has it 400. My god, dude. Okay, what's this guy's rough total, just off the top of my head? Say 400 bench plus 700 squat plus, let's just spot him to 800 deadlift. This is for the future. He's going to be almost at a 2,000 total. And in kilograms, that's over a 900 total. I mean, I would assume this guy is going to take world records at some point. Surely, given his age.
Which is an enormous result. Over the moon about this. So after this, like, powerlifting started to be the main forefront focus in my mind. Because I was starting to see what I could do in it. Within 8 months of having a coach, coming 3rd at the World Junior Championships. It was insane. So then a month and a bit later, I had the European Championships. And this was a big one for me. I was going into the competition against people that I'd lost to before.
That bench move easy, man.
But I ended up winning. So within my first year of
all of these move pretty darn easy.
Properly focusing on powerlifting, I'm a junior European champion. I'm going to focus on this and I'm good at it, and I almost feel like I have an obligation to do this because I clearly have, a gift in it.
Yes, you have a genetic obligation, bro. You were born to do powerlifting. And there's a lot of people, they are genetically blessed, whether it's for powerlifting, bodybuilding, general gym activities, even certain sports, whether they got injured when they were young and went away from it, whether they just never get into it. We all know somebody who would be a great lifter in some capacity if they really tried and applied themselves. But I have a friend from college. He would be an elite powerlifter. I have no doubt about it. He was just always buff, didn't train for months and months, always had big arms, big full chest, just strong as an ox, even when he didn't train and ate whatever he wanted. Then you compare that to me. I was in the gym for years at that point, still struggling to bench 225.
This brings us to last year. So last year I had 2 goals. Goals that I almost needed to tick off to feel accomplished in life. I wanted to set the junior deadlift world record and I wanted to become a junior world champion. I go to world championships last year, not coming in with the biggest total, going up against 2 guys who were extremely strong, and I end up doing both of them. I win world championships.
424 bench.
I've become junior world champion. It's the best video footage I've ever got in my life, and subsequently gone absolutely crazy on social media.
There it is. World record deadlift. Just shy of 800 pounds.
This was like powerlifting ticked off, essentially, for me. Like, this was the epitome. It didn't get much better than that.
Oh, and then just casually hits a backflip after a world record deadlift.
I had a choice to make. I've accomplished everything I pretty much can accomplish in junior powerlifting as a 93 kilo lifter. So yeah, after I win, it's like I've got a decision to make. I could stay 93, maybe try go back to back, or I could do what I feel like my body is telling me to do, because it's getting increasingly hard to stay 93. And what would kind of like etch my name in history, if it makes sense. Like, yeah, I've won junior world record, but if I was to go up a weight class and win back-to-back years, that would just be like the best thing ever.
And if he wants to add much more strength, he's going to have to go up the weight class. How much of that is muscle versus fat versus water? Probably a lot of fat and water, to be fair. Even so, though, adding even a pound or two of muscle to his frame is going to make a big difference in the output of these exercises. That's what happens, man. And yet again, if you are a novice lifter, you are not close to where he is, but it's the same thing. He can only add a little bit of muscle at this point if it's going to stay natural. You can add a lot of muscle, or you should be able to add a lot of muscle naturally. But if you don't eat, if you don't increase your weight and gain some fat with it, okay, boo-hoo, you're going to have to accept it. You're not going to get the results that you want.
And I feel like it's the decision that my body is telling me I need to make anyway. I'm still young. I've been at 93 for the entire time I've been powerlifting, and I'm getting heavier and heavier. It's kind of what I need to do. So I make that decision, and we decided to bulk up to the 105 kilo weight class. Now, at first, things were still going well. I was still fairly lean.
Most guys would kill for this physique. This is almost like Henry Cavill Superman type physique. And realistically, this guy is more muscular than Cavill.
And even into December we go for a big session. I hit 865 kilo total, 300 squat, 200 bench, 365 kilo deadlift. And I was still in decent shape around December, just over 100 kilos or so. I keep pushing because I have a weight class to fill out, and if I want to be competitive, it's best to probably not hold myself back.
Competitively speaking, if you have a weight class that you are fighting up to, because oftentimes guys have to cut down and do major water cuts to meet their weight class, then they gain a bunch of weight back. There's no reason to leave any amount of weight on the table if you don't need to. So even if you're simply just stuffing your face with food and gaining a bunch of water weight, that's going to ultimately help you, especially as we talked about with the bench press. Now, I'm not going to advocate that you, the general lifter, do that. That said, similar principles are going to apply. You do need to be gaining weight to reliably see your lifts go up, especially the ones that guys really care about. Bench press, incline, shoulder presses. In terms of calisthenics, the more body weight you gain, the harder they're going to be comparatively. But you need to gain strength in those anyway. I've said before, you know you're starting to get somewhere as a gym rat when you can start doing weighted calisthenics during your bulks as your weight is still going up by default, then adding the weight with the belt too.
So I keep pushing, I keep eating, and I wasn't doing super physique checks like that. Like when I would go to the gym, I didn't often go to gyms where they had like good lighting. I would check my physique and stuff, but in like February, I did a physique video with Joey, and I was probably around 103 kilos, and I actually thought I looked really good then for that size. When I went to the Arnold's in Ohio, I took a physique video then, and again, maybe around 103 kilos, and I still looked good.
Yeah, the vast majority of you watching are going to have no complaints about this physique. I mean, you're going to be lucky if you get to this level. It's going to take a long time if you do.
But then as I started hitting more like 104 and getting up to about 105, my physique, it just kind of spilled over. It gone past the filled out point and was now like the getting fat point. And I would say that I did start struggling mentally. Like, I'm someone that's always been known just not for strength, but my physique. And now the physique aspect is kind of out the window. I don't really want to show my physique like that. This year I had junior nationals to qualify me for Worlds this year, and I go.
Now we're benching 446. Easy too, went right up. God damn, bro.
I win, but my physique isn't in the shape that I would want. Obviously, I'm strong. I'm stronger than I've ever been. Squats were out of this world. Bench was really good. But the extra weight did make me feel a bit tired around deadlifts, and this is probably one of the things why I didn't deadlift quite as much as I wanted to. And then I go on holiday, go to Mexico, and I just don't really want to take too many pictures of my shirt off.
Now he's at the point where he's uncomfortable. I mean, even this physique, man, like I said, okay, we're probably at around 20% at this point, give or take. He carries it very well. Most guys that are 20% body fat, it looks nothing like this. What's the key? Muscle mass. I think around 20% body fat as a guy is roughly the point of diminished returns for the general bulk. Now, if you're in his situation, a strength sport, or any sort of endeavor where you need maximum strength and leverages, you can push it past that. And if you just want to, go ahead. But of course, many guys, even if they're not trying to, they will push it past 20%. Some guys push it way past 20%, even with good intentions. And if that is you, and you can relate, be sure to check out my full nutrition guide down below, the Body Composition Bible. I break down so many details about eating, bulking, cutting, recompositioning, food choices. So much is inside of there. You are not going to have any more guesswork when it comes to food. Check that out if you are tired of struggling with your food choices and your body composition.
The thing is, in good lighting, with good angles, I still look pretty good. But it's like 99% of the time, you're not under those conditions, so you do feel like you look really fat.
What he just said is extremely key. Because when you scroll through social media, you see the perfect angle and the perfect lighting and all of this stuff with the big accounts. That's one of the reasons why they become the biggest accounts. They're in total control of their photos and videos from every aspect. High quality camera, really good editing. The lighting is always on point. They angle it. I mean, guys, oftentimes these influencers, well, they have photographers, a lot of them, the biggest ones, but they will take these pictures over and over. Like, you guys think they just kind of toss up the phone and take a selfie. No. They took that photo dozens and dozens of times to get the right shot. And oftentimes they will take it with a pump. Like, they'll finish a set of curls, walk up to the mirror, and then take it. Or if they have the cameraman with them, he's filming them the entire time as they lift, so their muscles are more full and engaged by default. Or if they just finish a set, they have that little pump still going, as opposed to taking a cold selfie in the bathroom mirror. You're comparing that of yourself to the people you see online. And the thing is, too, even if you can accept and acknowledge that, you forget the next day. So you'll be sitting here agreeing with me, nodding along, like, yeah, that's right. Then you're going to open up Instagram tomorrow morning, even 20 minutes from now, and be like, oh my god, that guy looks so sick, I look nothing like that guy. You have to really train your brain to be able to look at all of the stuff online and not overreact to it. And that can take a lot of time. So if you're in a point now where you can't do that and you're always in this desperate comparison mode and always feeling down about yourself, I think I have some content that can help you with that, but it just gets better with time. Or ideally it should, depending on who you watch. If you watch and follow the wrong people, it will get worse.
But then majority of the time, I looked like this, which I don't feel was good about. And this is real, man.
Clearly jacked. Look at his traps. His back is wide as hell. The guy has a neck like a wrestler. Even from the side, I mean, his pecs are very big. Lats are sticking out, the traps. The dude is yoked out of his mind. This goes back to the whole, oh, powerlifters aren't that big, bro. You guys are just so out of touch with reality, it's hilarious. Okay? Like, do you think anybody that lifts the amount of weights that he lifts does not have a ton of muscle mass? It's not possible.
It's an adjustment, especially for someone that's always kind of took pride in their physique and now doing something where it's like, it's not even a thing where, like, if I was
he's getting worked up,
turbo bulk, and I know that, okay, but I'm gonna cut. It's the prospect of never really being able to cut if I want to stay on the path that I'm on. Like, there's not going to be any time with me being a 105 where it makes sense to properly cut.
Okay, so he's going up to 105 kilograms, or that's his weight class. So he has that wiggle room to work with. 105 kilograms is 231 pounds. And before he was a 93, that comes out to 204, say 205 pounds. Yeah, so he's got over 25 pounds to work with. And like I said, most of that by default is going to be water and fat. I mean, just based on his level of experience and gains, he cannot add that much more muscle mass, and especially in given time frames too, as much as he's trained so far. Even so, like he said, there is no reason to not be bulking. Like, you should add as much overall mass, no matter what form it takes, as you can for competitive purposes. And he's probably going to get more and more unhappy with it, but at least he's got the powerlifting records to show for it. A lot of guys, they get fat during their bulks, and they've got nothing to show for it.
I would say even that's more mentally challenging. It's not just how I look, it's the prospect of not being able to cut. That is really...
Come on, Pooch.
Down. Tyson, down. Down.
Dog took his sweet-ass time getting down.
So it's like, I've got a goal, obviously, which is to win Worlds this year, and that's a very high goal.
Based on everything we've seen, it looks like he's got a good chance.
So I've got to beat this guy in Regan, who is absolutely insane, but I've committed to it, you know, this is what I'm going to try and do. But in order to do that, I have to kind of let go of my physique, and it's hard.
This works both ways too, guys. In his case, he's doing powerlifting, he's got to puff up to accomplish his goals. If you're going to do aesthetics or bodybuilding and you need to get leaner and leaner to achieve those goals, you're going to sacrifice strength. You can't have it all those ways. Like I said, even with steroids involved, you're never going to get the best of both worlds. As Thomas Sowell told us a long time ago, there are no solutions, only trade-offs. So you have to decide which you're going for, and there's going to be trade-offs of that decision. Now that said, you should not be focusing on getting lean until you've got the muscle in the first place. That is one of the most fatal mistakes that young lifters commonly make. I did the same thing, and oftentimes if you start from a skinny fat point and you try to cut down without the muscle, you would look like Gollum from Lord of the Rings. You become this skinny fat mess of like, okay, stringy arms and, you know, maybe like a little upper ab definition, but still a little pooch at the bottom, maybe a little bit of love handle, your chest isn't filled out. Okay, maybe you have like a silhouette of the traps and some back gains going on, but in a shirt, you still look small. You take the shirt off, it still looks small. And especially if you have bad insertions for your abs and or for your chest, and those don't really connect well, I mean, it can get really ugly. I've seen it many times. The only way to fix this, guys, unless you want to get some crazy invasive surgery, is to build muscle mass. Even if you've got some odd genetics like I just mentioned, more and more muscle mass is what fixes these problems. And if you are on that range of skinny, fat, skinny, lean, whatever, you're in no position to be cutting. If you want to build that muscle mass, all you're going to do is waste your time. You're going to cut down, hate how you look, and then you're going to find me, or say, I should have listened to that revival guy. And you're going to have spent all those months cutting and making no progress, oftentimes losing progress and strength in the gym. And then you're going to bulk after. You could have saved all that time and bulked from the onset, but you have to bulk properly. And that's why I'm here.
It's hard, man. I won't lie. You don't get everything in life. Like, if you make a decision and you stick to it, you know, I could have stayed 93, but I wouldn't have gained as much strength. It would have been very hard to hold that weight. I wouldn't have been able to eat all this nice food. And you have to pick your battles, you know?
Like I just said, no solutions, only trade-offs. He's saying the same thing in a different way.
This video isn't just a sob story, though. If I was to give myself advice, and if it's advice to anyone who's maybe got, like, maybe just a place where you're not totally happy with your physique, I would just say, like, don't try to be in denial about it. Don't try to, like, really convince yourself and only look at yourself when you're in those crazy lighting and angles.
Very difficult to do, especially for the young lifters now. You guys have had social media in your hand your entire life. I do agree with him. You have to get out of that headspace as much as you can. And if it gets to the point where you need to just not go on Instagram, I get it. I wouldn't fault you for it at all. I mean, besides the body dysmorphia, the app itself sucks. There's really no reason to be on it unless you're using it for some type of business. I mean, I see a lot of y'all's accounts. It's always some anime avatar, or some Greek statue, or some historical figure. Maybe one or two posts, maybe. Most of y'all's Instagrams suck. You got no use for it. That said, if you are on there, and I know you're not going to stop using it, follow me, @_revival fitness.
You know, just accept, you know, where you are, and that, like, that's okay, you know? And, like, you're not any less, like, worthy because of it. And that's obviously hard as a fitness influencer, a natty fitness influencer, where it's like, man, I know that if I was on gear, I could probably gain a bunch of strength and be hella lean at the same time.
Right, like Hassan Asshat. You can get down to 8% body fat and build 60 pounds of muscle simultaneously over a 1.5 year span. Totally natural. Like I said earlier, assume this guy's natural, just give him the benefit of the doubt. If this guy does go on gear, and he really pushes it, he may deadlift 1,000 pounds.
I'm making a decision, I'm staying natural, I'm completing the IPF, and this is what I've signed up for. And now for the people who maybe are in this position and you would like to go on a cut, this is what I would do if I was me, but I was able to cut and I had, say, 10 weeks, 8 weeks to do this. The first thing I would do is just up my steps as much as possible. Steps are an extremely underrated, I wouldn't say underrated, people know about them, but steps make an enormous difference.
The thing with steps as well, beyond the general ease component, because, I mean, you can just walk around your house or apartment or walk around your neighborhood. If you have a physical job, you get them by default. You can't tell, but I'm standing right now. I stand in here for most of the day while I'm working and doing other things, so I don't really have to account for my steps. I never really formally track them. I know my phone does, it has that thing, but I take it out of my pocket all the time, so it's never accurate. But when I used to be a personal trainer working at the gym, I would get 15,000, 20,000 steps a day, easy, on some days. You can get them while doing other work. I've often put a treadmill under my desk while I edit and do other tasks. I will link the one I use down below too, or maybe a small walking pad. That's the best for me. I've tried to do the treadmill at the gym. I last 10 minutes and I'm losing my mind. Even with music or a podcast or a book, it's just so painfully boring. If I'm doing some work that I'm engulfed in, I can walk an hour and barely even realize that I'm doing it. So an under-the-desk treadmill or a stepper or something, I think it's a no-brainer if you're trying to get more steps in an easy way.
Number 2 would be, don't go and think that because you're trying to cut, you have to change all your workouts to more like shredding, toning workouts. You want to do your exact same workouts and keep the exact same intensity, because the intensity of your workouts is what is going to preserve your muscle mass.
He mentioned the toning and shredding workouts. There's an old adage, I still hear people say this, like, oh, whenever you're cutting, you should do higher reps, because you're going to burn more calories, right? It's like, okay, sure, maybe a bit. One, you really cannot account for those. Calorie tracking in general has massive error margins on both sides. Like we just mentioned, the under-the-desk treadmill, or any type of treadmill, or any sort of watch you wear, any machine or any device that tracks steps or cardio. How do you know it's accurate? Huge error margins. Like, all of this stuff is guesswork. But we'll see if he mentions this. I've talked about it before. I have this full video if you want to check it out. You can click the top right. But something you need to be on top of if you're going to cut, especially the deeper and deeper that you do during your workouts, is auto-regulating. You need to be in control of these variables and be in tune with your body, because you're not going to be able to push as hard holistically and recover the same way when you cut, as opposed to if you are bulking or even maintaining. So you have to be aware of that too, because if you push yourself too hard on a cut, you can bury yourself. Even if you don't get injured, just the overall fatigue and the exhaustion can become very real. Then you're less likely to get your steps in or do your cardio. You become more likely to have cheat meals, things like that.
Obviously, alongside with eating a high protein diet, but your body is essentially a use it or lose it mechanism. So if you're not using the muscle that you have and continuing to push the weights, then you're going to lose it. And you're already running a risk of losing it when you're cutting.
Not by default. I get what he means in principle, but no, not by default.
If anything, always increase your protein intake and strip the calories probably back from carbs.
That's a no-brainer to me. I mean, especially when you're eating less overall. And again, the farther and farther down that you cut, you want to get the most bioavailable nutrition per bite. Carbs are not going to provide that. You also want to make sure that you have sufficient fat for general hormone purposes. People in this industry say all the time, oh, healthy fats. Then you hear them talk about it and they're way off base. Get the Body Composition Bible, like I said, I explained it all there.
If you strip back your fat intake too much, obviously fat plays a role in your obviously hormonal balance, and obviously protein is so necessary to maintain your muscle, and especially on a cut, you might even want to eat slightly more protein. And then I would say you just want to orient your carbs around your training session.
I agree with that.
I would say before and after training, these are the main times that you want to have carbs.
The best way they're going to be put to use, so to speak, is around the workout window. So pre and or post. If I had to pick one of those, I would say pre-workout is best.
That is what I would do if I didn't have a world title to win, but unfortunately I do, so I can't do any of those.
World's the smallest violin for our guy here.
But, the things that I can do is obviously, clean up my diet a bit. There's been times during this period where I haven't been eating the cleanest. Make sure that I'm doing enough steps. I think one of the things that actually held me at 93 last year was that I got a dog, the guy that's been in and about this video.
If I remember, the dog looks like a Rottweiler, or one of the bigger breeds. Those of you that have never owned dogs before, especially if you get them when they're young and as they grow, they need a lot of attention, a lot of energy. You gotta walk them all the time, play with them. They're gonna pee and poop in the house too. You gotta run around and chase after them. They're gonna eat your shoes and your socks. Man, it's a lot of effort for a dog. Then you see a cat, you throw it in the house, get it some sand, it just does its own thing.
And, powerlifting is not going to be forever. Obviously, I've made this goal, so I'm going to stick to it. But after that, who knows? I'm not going to make any bold statements.
I can make a bold statement. He's talked about his physique. He takes pictures with guys with good physiques. This has the classic writings of a powerlifting to bodybuilding segue. And I've talked about this before too, guys. Very commonly, powerlifters, when they finally do cut down, they will win bodybuilding shows. Maybe not at the highest level, like pro level or even nationals, at least quickly, but regional amateur shows, the powerlifter that cuts down cleans up very, very commonly. Oh, but bro, bench squat and deadlift are bad for hypertrophy and low reps are bad for hypertrophy. Keep telling yourself that.
If you're struggling this summer, know that you're not alone. I've never done anything this vulnerable before. Don't know if you guys can tell.
Alright, so shout out to young Nathaniel for that video. I'm sure you'll see him on your social media in the coming months and years. Even if you don't really follow powerlifting, you're going to see him at some point given how strong he is. He will make the rounds definitely. And there's some lessons to be taken there, and I speak from experience here. You can check out some of my previous videos explaining. I've been where you are, and I've gotten through it. I've gotten others through it too. So if you want to get in direct contact with me, check out Fourth Wall down below to direct message me. We can send photos and videos in the chat, or schedule a consultation call. We can discuss everything in one swoop, or apply for coaching if you want to work with me at the deepest level. But that's been it for me, guys. Thank you for watching. Just watch all my stuff.